Don't be afraid. Just know.
I think I like the idea of the children's ministry peers having like a syllabus, for lack of a better term,
Hmm.
um, that was comparable to whatever we were teaching, whatever was going on here. I don't know how consistent that was, but I like the idea of it.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm not saying peers was consistent. I don't know, but the idea of that was nice. I really been enjoying the Bible studies,
Okay.
more so the deeper Bible studies,
Okay.
since that's what it's called. You know, deeper. Um, I've enjoyed that. Um, I think that the consistency of attendance, the fluctuation has been very noticeable. And I don't know if that's just because, travel or, whatever. Uh, Finances have gone down, giving has gone down. And it could just be the season that we're all in, or that it's not important,
Okay.
anymore. Um, I know personally, for me, my giving has gone down because I have other obligations now. What else? Dang!
Yeah, that's why I paused too. I was like, that's very rare out this way.
So rude. Um, the consistency with service, like, how the service flows has been nice. Um, I think, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else? Y'all quiet.
Um, there was no real in or outreach that happened in 2025. Not really. Um, Now that we have AC and heat in the fellowship hall, maybe that will do something, because I know for a moment I stopped doing glow because of it was either too hot in there and we
Hmm.
couldn't do it in the summertime, and I have to find other things to do. So maybe that's something. Um, our small groups hadn't really been doing anything in 2025.
Hmm.
And, maybe that was a break that we needed,
Okay.
to realize that this is something that we want to continue doing. Like,
Okay. Okay.
it's been nice having Ross here. When he here to play. I think that the lack of a drummer when he's playing is, it's noticeable.
Okay. I would agree. I would agree. Okay. Anybody else have any reflections other than Pastor Dara? I appreciate you.
I think a lot of us would probably say something simple is probably where a lot of science is coming from. Myself included, we could probably start being more consistent this year.
Yeah.
But things happen. When you got a bunch of humans doing different jobs, stuff happens.
Yeah.
Consistency would be good. I do like the Bible studies now too. Um, and we seem like we got a set crew of folks that come, and that's with outreach. We're bringing those other folks.
Okay.
I'm done saying this. I'm just glad we're still here. I'm looking around and seeing some of the same people that were around 10 years, 3 buildings ago.
Yeah.
So that should say something. Consider.
I agree. Ladies. Huh? Thoughts?
I know sometimes we say 11:30, but it's later than 11:30 when we actually get started. And like David said, things happen, traffic, accidents, or whatever. But it should be concentrate on making sure that we're doing things on time.
Okay. I like it. Okay.
I think Higher Ground has been doing a good job at getting, for the most part. They've been doing all right with
Getting
getting
out on
out,
time.
you know.
Giving us our time.
Let's put this at the end of the year, I don't know, it just, the consistency of the musician or like service flow is good.
Okay. 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 Appreciate that. Des, you've been here, what, 3 weeks? 4 weeks officially? What are your thoughts so far?
So I like Bridgeton as a church. I like the feel here. I like how there's not, yeah. There's not like that like mean girl vibe here.
Mhm.
Um,
That's good to hear.
yeah, for real. Okay, so I've been in church my whole life, and like I've been in churches where it's like you walk in and it's that mean girl vibe.
I know.
Yeah, so I like that it's not here. I like the flow service.
Okay. I like that.
I like the Bible studies.
They are. I enjoy Bible studies myself, actually. Okay. Mike, what are your thoughts? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good. Um, I think every reflection is valid. I think every reflection is accurate in its own way. Um, I can say, as a pastor, I'm grateful we survived a abrupt pivot. Right? I didn't give y'all much time to adjust to the idea of me moving, and that was a hit. Right? But even with the decreased attendance, and a lot of you are seeing the lack of attendance when I'm not here, so you feel it, right? But you still carry on, and I'm appreciative of that because that shows a level of commitment and maturity to the vision, and not just to the person. And that's not easy though. Now I wouldn't have told y'all this when I did it. I was scared to death. I thought we weren't going to make it, and that's the honest truth. I was like, 3 months, we'll probably shut down versus last year. But I know what I heard the Lord say, but I know how I felt, right? And I know what I was hearing, and still valid. But to see us still survive, right? Sometimes barely, but we've survived. And to that, it makes me grateful. Thank you, Noah. Sister Shannon, good to see y'all. Oh, and officially, they are both back. Not just Noah, they are both back. I've been depressed since Sister Shannon left. So for us to have been able to survive, right, with that abrupt shift, not a lot of ramp up, usually, and you guys probably know this about me now, I try to teach you into change. That was one I did not do. And I did my best to keep it as quiet as possible. I would lie to Fears all the time because I know he can't hold water. So I wouldn't tell him. So I wouldn't tell him that I'm moving. I just saw him going back and forth, right? There was no way I was going to tell him I was moving. Because the moment I told him, y'all have been gone. Y'all have been before I told him. But the beauty about that is that when I did express to him the vision about making some changes and adjustments, I know that he'll share with the key people to get them on board before I announce it, right? And that's the beauty about knowing the people. When you know how to place your people music properly, right? Then it helps keep people on board. And you guys have done that. All of you could have been somewhere else. You could have, vocalized your displeasure, but you still kept coming. And so I want you to know how much I appreciate that, because when you consider the framework we are accustomed to, right? Churches are accustomed to, there is one person in control, there's one person you hear, there's one person that makes all the decisions. They are not used to, especially in the black church context, they are not used to a team leadership approach, right? They're not used to a team leadership when it comes to teaching. That's not what black churches do. We're doing something that a lot of churches don't do. Now, I can tell you right now, I see it work. My Pastor Aaron, the white guy that's come preach, he preaches once every 3 months. He's the senior pastor. It does work. It just doesn't work with us generally because nobody's done it and it's uncomfortable. And so we've really been trying to do something that nobody else is doing. And I guarantee you give it a year or two, somebody else is going to copy it soon, right? If we can show it's successful, they'll do it. So I'm grateful for that. And I want to thank you all how much I appreciate your commitment to the vision here and not just me as a person. And that's more important to me because I am a fallible person. If I ever failed, I'd want somebody else to continue and you still come. Does that make sense? We can't put it in humans because y'all been around me long enough to know ain't no human perfect, especially me. And thank the Lord we're not experiencing that in this season. So I want to thank you for that. We're going to dive in a little bit more into what we have coming for 26. And so what I want to do is I wanted to make sure that I talked about the theme for 2026, and that is focusing forward. We are going to focus forward. We're not going to focus on what was, right? We're not going to focus on what has been, because while that's been great, that's not going to sustain us where we are now, right? Sometimes you find that in relationships, Pastor Ressa, the things you used to do, right? The places you used to go, sometimes the movies you used to watch, the food you used to eat. As you mature, as you grow, you don't have the same taste for it anymore, right? And so when that changes, when you grow, when you mature, and sometimes that can be in friendships, it can be in relationships, the things that used to work just don't work for me anymore. So I have to mature, and so I can't be so fixated on the former that I can't see where God's trying to take us to. So this year, we're going to be focusing forward. This year, higher ground theme is going to be focused forward. Right? I'll let y'all think about that for a little bit. And as time goes on, I'll be able to share more about that. But that is going to be our focus as we're focusing forward. Okay? So, the meeting, right? I want to be able to clearly communicate our spiritual vision, our ministry direction, what our operational focus is for the upcoming year, and really to invite those who are here and eventually those in the congregation to participate. And so this meeting really is for alignment. I wish more people were here, but of course, for those who are not, what you're going to find out, some of the Bible studies and some of the sermons, I'll be teaching into this idea, okay? And so you'll get the foretaste, they'll get the rest, okay? And so we're going to try to align our ideas, our thoughts, our expectations, clarify direction, and I'm hoping to encourage you all to take some sense of ownership in your participation, okay? And I want to be clear about this. You've all been doing that already. That's why you're here, right? I don't have problems with you all taking ownership, right? And so believe it or not, with the direction that we're headed, you're probably going to be the key people to help facilitate that transition, okay? And so for 2026, Focus Forward is going to be based upon 4 pillars, okay? Because while the statement is simple, it's still somewhat demanding, right? Forward movement requires focused development, right? If we're going to move forward, we have to have focus. And so progress does not happen by accident, growth does not happen by being passive, and maturity does not happen by not being intentional. right? And so what we're going to find is we're going to be intentional about maturing, intentional about being accountable, intentional about being consistent, intentional about being present, intentional about inviting people, intentional about doing our evangelism. We're not going to just talk about it like we've done last year, the year before that. We have these great ideas and then we don't do nothing. Or we have these great ideas, we do it once or twice, and then we don't continue. Because here's what I found out about redemption. Redemption does not like, here's what's funny. We think repetition is redundancy when repetition is actually faithfulness. But because the way culture is, when you do something over and over, what happens? You get bored. That's generally what happens, right? You can only watch a video for about a minute and 30 seconds, you're gonna scroll up. If you see it again, you're not gonna watch it anymore. Your attention span is less each time you do it. We're seeing that infiltrate the body of Christ. When things become repetitious, we don't like it. I want to find something else to do. I'm not going because I know what they're going to do. Who's preaching? I'm not going because I know how they preach. That is not faithfulness. It might feel redundant. It might feel boring. But God waking you up every day could feel boring to him, and yet he still does it. God making sure your bills get paid, he still does it. God hearing your complaints about what you don't like, even though it's what you do, he still does it, right? Faithfulness can feel like being bored if you're not focused on where you're headed. I have to be faithful to get where I'm going, right? That's not punishment. That's alignment with what God's saying. And that's his model, that's his mechanism, that's his equation for success. And so this year, we are going to make sure that we get our maturity by being intentional. So we're going to focus on 4 areas that shape both our spiritual and our natural life. Okay? The first area we're going to focus on is faith. It's our first pillar. Okay? So faith. Am I on the right? Yeah. Faith. We're going to strengthen our belief. We're going to strengthen our trust. And we're going to strengthen our obedience. If you've paid attention to the Bible studies, while they've been fun, because we're talking about the stuff that we've misunderstood, believe it or not, my goal has been to strengthen your belief. Right? What do you believe and why? And even if we disagree, explain why we disagree. We was talking about them horoscopes. I love that Pastor explained. This is what I think. This is how I feel. Cool. This is what it says. There's nothing wrong with having an opinion and a preference, but also we're still going to live by what it says. And so everything we've been teaching, where we're dispelling the religious approaches to things, right, has been about let me strengthen what you know about the Bible so you can stand on it and not be shook when somebody else says it. That's what Bible study is for. That is not for Sundays. Sundays is so we come, get encouraged. Yeah, we're going to have some teaching because that's what I do, right? But at the end of the day, Sunday, I want you to leave encouraged, right, for the week. But Bible study, let me train you, let me teach you, let me disciple you. Let them train you, let them teach you, let them disciple you. That's the point. So we've been doing that already. So faith. The next thing we're going to focus on is family, because I'm going to tell you what, the enemy's trying to tear up families. And I think I can say this where nobody's going to be offended. The devil loves divorces. He loves children not liking their parents. He loves people being abused, right? He loves kids getting sexual too soon, right? He loves bad conflict resolution skills, right? He loves to see men who don't lead their families. He loves to see women who don't like their husbands. He loves to see kids who don't like their parents. We are going to focus on rebuilding the family. Just because I didn't had too many divorces don't mean I suggest divorce to everybody else. That's not God's desire. Now, there's parameters in which he says it should happen and how it should happen. He's not saying you're going to hell if it happens, but what I do want to say is if marriage is the mirror for God's love for the church, marriage is a symbol to the rest of the world. And so what do we want to do? We want to repair that. We want to repair it, okay? So we want to repair it without condemning those who've had to go through it. Has to be balanced. Okay? So, we're going to deal with family. We are going to deal with finances because as we talked about earlier, Pastor Dar said our finances went down. I went back to look. First 6 months of the year, we probably brought in about $3,500 a month. Believe it or not, that's not a lot. Okay? The last 6 months, our average was $2,500 a month. Now, I expect a slump in the summer because people spend their church money to go on trips. It's just what they do. Happens at every church, okay? So don't get bothered by that. But what I've noticed is that while our giving goes down, our expenses don't, right? So for example, we pay $13.75 a week to be here. $13.75 a week, 16, just about almost 16 a month. So that's like $15.25, I think, if my math is right. $15.25 a month, somewhere around there, just to use this space. We pay Ross $100 a week, right? So now that puts us at, y'all know my math ain't good right now, but it's almost $2,000, right? For what? For Ross, $100 a week. So it comes out to $4 a month. Okay? So that puts us almost at 2. Now, when we were bringing in 35, that's still tight, right? So we'd have about 15 left. We still got to pay for our internet services. We still got to pay for our card processing services. We still have to pay for anything extra that we have. It comes in expenses. If we want to do little things here and there, that's cool. But when we got to 25, now we don't have anything, right? Now, if the church paid for my travel, we would have no money, right? If I still had a salary, it used to be I was getting $5 a week. It used to be I was getting $250 a week. It used to be I was getting $100 a week. I don't get anything. So now, I pay $1,700 a month just to come in. Okay? If the church is paying that, we would have no money. I don't complain because I consider that like my tithe. I'm the one who moved. I was going to give anyway, so that's what I do. But here's the deal. If something happens, we would have no money to do anything. If there was an emergency, we would have no money, right? If we wanted to build something, if we wanted to do something, if we wanted to do something special for the kids, the event that's happening on the 17th with the youth, I'm paying for that because the church doesn't have the money. But I'm blessed to be able to do that right now. The reality is I shouldn't have to. And that's not being negative, but I will, right? So here's the thing. We're going to talk about finances because, to Pastor Dara's point, one, the economy sucks right now. Sucks. Two, I have a sneaky suspicion that some people just don't know how to handle money. Some people are super deep and spiritual, but they suck with money. I've been there. The only reason why I'm not there now is because I went from having 3 daycares that made $40,000 a month to having to go back down to 4. You're talking about learning how to budget. I had 3 car payments at one time, $2,000 a month. And then I didn't have $2,000 a month to pay on cars. I had to readjust, right? And so it forced me to budget. What I would like to do is start doing some teachings and series in small groups on budgeting, finances. How do you expand the money that you have? How do you build a legacy? The scripture tells Abraham that his responsibility was to build a legacy for those who came after him. We have the same mandate. The things I'm doing a family trust right now for my kids right now. Why? I want you to have money when I die. Right? But that means I got to build them something to have. And so what we're going to do is we're going to spend time teaching people how to manage finance. If you got a business, how do you run a business effectively? We got people here who love you, who they can help assess. How do you present your business? Right? The reason why I wouldn't use it is this, this, and this. Not because I don't like you, but let me tell you how you present yourself. Right? I've had people who want to use people for other stuff. It's like, I would use them, but I don't like this, this, and this on their page. I can't help you. Right? Or I've recommended people and they didn't deliver on their product. I can't recommend to anybody else because you don't do what you say you're going to do. Right? So what I want to do is we're going to go through series on how do you find the right bank for you? How you do high interest savings accounts, right? How do you do a family trust if you want one? Right? How do you avoid probate? If you die and you want to leave your kids stuff, how do you avoid that? Because taxes will take everything if they can get it, right? So I want us to teach about that. Have people come in from banks, help you open up a bank account if you don't have one. If you can't get a bank account because you had one closed and you're in check systems, there are second chance banks that you can use. All of those things I want to help us do. How do you find a credit card that's good for people with bad credit so you can help rebuild it? All of those things, Mike, I want us to teach people because church is more than just about the spiritual side. There's an entire livelihood that we have, that we do majority outside of church, that really can be taught in church. Okay? So that's that third pillar. We're going to deal with finances, and then we're going to deal with formation. And by formation, I mean this: character, discipline, spiritual maturity. Character. Who are you as a person? Not what people see. And sure, I almost cussed. Sure as heck, not what you post. Who are you when people don't look? What do people say about you behind closed doors? What are you doing and who are you doing it with? Because the reality is that's character. What people say about you is reputation. How you actually live when nobody's looking, that's character. And we are going to spend time building character, right? As a man, what makes me a man? What makes me a good man? What makes me a good husband? What makes me a good father, right? And what standards do I have that make me confident in the man that I am, that regardless of how people respond to me, I know my character is good. I'm gonna share a story with y'all. My daughter's not talking to me right now. Hasn't talked to me since me and Diana split. Talks to her all the time. Irks my soul. But she's not talking to me. But you know what I do? Every week, I'm gonna send her a message saying I'm checking on you. Every week, I'm gonna tell her I love you. Every week, you need some money, I got you. She does not respond, but I'm gonna still do it. You know why? I'm a good dad. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you said to me. I don't care what you said, how you feel. I know that I'm a good dad, right? Now, if there's some things you prefer for me to do, communicate that. I can fix that. But as far as who I am, ain't nothing you can say to change that. She did my heart good. She responded to me on Christmas. All she said was, thank you and Merry Christmas. I was like a big baby, right? But I know who I am, right, as a dad. I know who I am as a provider. I know who I am as a husband. I know who I am. I know the good parts of me. I know the bad parts of me. And what we want to do is we want to do a whole series on who am I? And how does it align with what the Word of God says? And if it's not in alignment, fears, how do I get it there? What am I supposed to be as a man? What are you supposed to be as a woman? And it ain't Proverbs 31, right? We want to talk about that. So we want to talk about formation. We want to talk about character, discipline, spiritual maturity. And so we're not just trying to grow the church. We are committed to forming people. I am tired of focusing on the numbers and the seats, and then people still toxic. Why would he send them? Right? As Mike said, I want more men in here, but I want them to be connected to good men. Right? And we don't have none of these in here, so I'm gonna use this as an example. If we got men in here that beat their wives, I don't want them connected to that. And I can use that as an example because we don't. Right? Fears beats his kids, not wives. Right? But so it's important, right? Skip filling the seats if our character's bad. Because then what we do is we spread cancer. And the kingdom don't need cancer. Okay? So we're not just trying to grow a church. We are going to be committed to forming people, right? And so each of these pillars are going to get intentional focus. So what I'm going to do is, and what we're going to do as a church family, and everybody who teaches, we're going to take one pillar and focus an entire quarter on it, right? We may alternate it and decide to do, one pillar 1 month, one pillar the next month, one pillar 1 month, one pillar the next month. We'll figure it out. But we are going to take weeks at a time to focus on a particular pillar so we give it time to marinate, okay? Okay? And so we're not going to be scattered. We're not going to do surface level. We're going to be intentional, okay? And so now, there's going to be some directional shifts, okay? Directional shifts. And I have this all in the PDF, so if you can't see it, which you probably can, because I thought you could see it better, but you probably can't see some of the words. But as if you need this, I can send this to you in the slide format. So the directional shift is going to really be this, right? So I wanted to refine our vision and mission, simplify it, right? So that way it gets in you. We're going to repeat this a lot. You're going to hear it a lot. We're going to memorialize this, okay? So we're going to have a directional shift this year. And our vision is going to be clear. Our vision is to see the city, right, wherever we are. If we move to a different city tomorrow, we want to see cities transformed. That's our vision. Very clear. We want to see cities transformed. Cities are comprised of people. So how I said in this last time, we're going to form people. If we form the people, we see the city transformed. City doesn't transform if we don't form the people, right? We get the city transformed by transforming us, okay? So we want to see cities transformed, and then for our mission is we want to form people capable of carrying that transformation, right? So we want to see the cities transformed, and we want to build the people that are capable of spreading that transformation. Super simple. So when people hear our church name, when people know what we do, they know that we are in the city making an impact, whether it's the things we do in outreach, whether it's the things we do in our small groups, but somewhere, somehow, they're going to know that church does stuff. People's lives are changed, okay? And so this means our priorities are not going to be numbers first. And I'm actually great. This is going to sound crazy. Mike, I'm actually grateful we don't have a lot of numbers. Why? Because we don't stay focused on losing people. One of the benefits about planning a church is I planted with 6 people. So numbers really don't bother me. Like, it sucks. I've seen 325. Like, I miss that. But also, when I don't see it, you can get it back. You just got to do the work. Right? So, our mission, or excuse me, our priority is not the numbers first. It's going to be formation first. As we form, the numbers will come. As we form, as we begin to transform the city, the numbers will come. And so the Lord began to deal with me. You're focusing on the numbers, but you're not focusing on the transformation. I want to be mature first, then bring the people. I want to be mature first, right? It's like I wanted to have a house and a car first before I got married, not the other way around. You don't want nobody getting got their life together before you connect to them. Why do we want people to connect to us like that? As a church? No, we don't. Okay? So, priority is not numbers first, but formation first, because when people are formed, families are stabilized. When people are formed, when character is built, families are stabilized, and people love to bring families to stable spaces. Right? When families are stabilized, communities are strengthened. And when communities are strengthened, cities change. You see that? You see how it builds? People, family, community, city. Right? We're trying to take the city, and we ain't got the people formed yet. So that's why we have to be intentional. Okay? So what's going to change this year? We're going to emphasize rebuilding community and fellowship. Community and fellowship. Okay? We're going to emphasize rebuilding community fellowship. We're going to strengthen our discipleship and spiritual growth. We are not just going to focus on attendance. We are going to focus on involvement, right? Because even if they show up, but then they don't get involved in the activities we did, we're still not changing lives. A house full of people on a Sunday, and then nobody shows up for Bible study. Nobody shows up for Glow. Nobody shows up for 100 Club. Nobody shows up for youth ministry. We've not made an impact yet. Because here's the thing. You can have worship anywhere. And this is why I've become less bothered, right, by attendance on Sunday, because here's the deal. You can watch worship online. You can watch 15, we did it during COVID. You can watch 15 different worship services. You can get worship anywhere. You know what you can't get? Community. And so until we prioritize community, along with worship, along with evangelism, we're not going to see change. And again, the goal is change the city, which means you impact the community, which is done by growing families, which is done by fixing our character as individuals. Okay? So, moving from attendance to involvement, and we're going to create clear pathways to connect, right? We've talked about this over and over, visitor follow-up, new member follow-up. We're really going to shift from having people come to church, but we want to make people be built by church, build healthy lives by church, and then be sent from the church. The goal is not just to have them sit here and come on a Sunday. The goal is to really have them sit here, get built, and then send them, right? Not saying send them to a different church, but send them out into the world to shift the community, shift the city, okay? So, here we go. So as we rebuild our community, wait, let me pause. Any questions, thoughts so far? Is this making sense to y'all? Is it too much? Overwhelming? Okay, we're making progress. So, any other questions, comments, thoughts? Okay.
This is good.
Is it all right? Okay. Well, thank you. I spent a little bit of time on it. And ask Pastor Rest to pick it apart. See where I'm messing up. When I tell y'all have heard me say this over and over. She used to work my nerve. But when I tell you Pastor Rest is like one of the best assets, I started using the calendar because, before Sister Shannon came was helping me, I didn't start using the calendar to schedule stuff until Pastor Rest. I hated putting stuff in the calendar. Who takes the time? I'll remember. Obviously, I didn't. But I learned how to do all that kind of stuff. Yep. Ask the hard questions and realize the difference of opinions doesn't mean people don't agree. And, maturing, right? Character development. Anyway, what do you say? Yo, that was funny. Okay, so here's how we rebuild that community, right? We're going to focus on, yeah, y'all can't see this. We are going to focus on rebuilding community and ministry focus. And so one of the things I really wanted to point out is that community matters because growth happens in connection. Y'all, growth is not going to happen just by bringing people to church. One of the things redemption used to get talked about a lot is it feels like a big family. Here's the challenge, Sister Shannon, is that when different parts of the family go through different things at the same time, the family feels broken up. And so you lose that family feel, right? Well, you gotta put effort into bringing that back, right? It's still there. We just have to foster the environment to do it. So, because we know that faith thrives in fellowship, and because we know that isolation weakens us, which is what we do when we're hurt, what we do when we're going through, what we do when we're offended, we miss, we take breaks, we have other stuff to do, right? And believe it or not, and again, these are business meetings, so I can say this now. A lot of the absences are people going through stuff, and so they're doing other stuff to keep them distracted. I know that. Now, some things are legitimate, some things are schedule issues, some things are life issues. But it's almost like we've seen more life issues in the last year and a half than we've ever seen ever. But also, we've seen more familial attacks than we've ever seen. It's happening to everybody, right? And so we're going to have to be intentional about strengthening family. And if it ain't your house to strengthen, we're going to make sure the church family is strengthened. So that way, until your house get back together, we can help you, right? And so because we're rebuilding with intention, we've kind of identified a few areas specifically that we're going to focus on, not because every area is not important, but because we know that rather than trying to do everything good, we want to do a couple things well. Does that make sense? And then we expand, okay? So our first area that we're going to really focus on, because we know it used to hit the ball out the park, is GLOW, our women's ministry, okay? GLOW really exists to cultivate community and connection. It cultivated healing and wholeness, right? There used to be 40, 50 women showing up to GLOW. Never stepped foot in a worship service, but they came to GLOW. That's community impact. They knew Dara's name, they didn't know mine. That's community impact. That's what you want, okay? And it also creates a space for leadership development. Learn skills, learn tools, learn how to reach other women, learn how to build other women in a space that does not have to be a worship service. Everything don't have to happen in worship service. And if we can frame our minds to realize that we can actually be a solid church, even if the room ain't packed out, but the ministries are, Glow's packed, youth ministries packed, marriage ministries packed. How would we feel then? Would we be as bothered by 20 or 30 on a Sunday when the small groups have 50, 60, 70? In a perfect world, they'll come on a Sunday, right? Because the goal is to get them connected there, they'll come on here. But if they don't, if they're getting the gospel and glow, I don't care. I never got mad at the people that didn't come to church. Why? Because I knew they were going to get the gospel and glow. Honey Club, couples I ain't never met, but they listen to her teach. Listen to Mike that be there, right? If they're getting the gospel somehow, that's how you transform communities. That's how you transform a city, okay? So that's going to be our focus. So Glow is where we're starting. Glow is not just an event. Glow is a pipeline. If you do marketing, you know what pipeline's about. Glow's a pipeline. You get them in the Glow, you have the potential to get a few of them out of Glow. Okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to have monthly activities. We are going to put it on the calendar in advance, and we're going to have a calendar for the year that this is what's happening at Glow. Okay? Right? There's a Glow event, you'll have the dates. Was you going to say something, add something? Okay. So, with that being said, well, we'll get to that slide in a second. So, after Glow, right, or in conjunction with Glow, our next focus is going to be our youth ministries. Family does not want to come where there's nothing for kids. And I'm talking something with excellence for kids, right? To the points earlier, like we did really good in the beginning of the year. This is tying in with the literature, right? The things we were going to teach them from, the separating of the ages, the class stuff like that. That was great. As the year went on, we had that less, right? Of course, some kids came less too. So now here's the question. Did the chicken come before the egg or did the egg come before the chicken? Did the kids stop coming because we weren't producing the excellence or did we stop producing excellence because the kids weren't coming at the same time? And so here is something we're going to have to learn as leaders, and I had this conversation with somebody else who's going to be stepping into a role, is that you don't stop your job because they don't show up. If I don't prepare to preach because I assume that nobody's coming, I'm the failure, not them. If I don't prepare Bible study because I only think 2 people are going to be there, I have failed. That is my job. Whoever shows up is who shows up. But my job, my assignment is to the Lord in this area. And so I don't quit because people aren't coming. Now, let me be clear though, I do get disappointed. It sucks. Hurts my feelings sometimes, right? I know more people could be here right now. They're not, for whatever reason. It's okay. Maybe that's what the Lord wants. That's literally how I look at things now. Because my job is to do this. Their job is to listen to him. My job don't affect your job. I just have to be prepared. Okay? So, children's ministry is going to be our next area of focus because we want to rebuild, strengthen the redemption youth because our focus, again, we said it, is going to be their identity in Christ. We want to make sure that biblical foundation. We want to make sure that they feel like they belong and then have mentors. Let me tell you what, Sister Shannon, I talked more to my youth leader about my life than my parents, right? The girlfriend, the boyfriend, who I liked, who I didn't like, my frustrations. My youth leader, matter of fact, Sister Wanda who sang praise and worship team, that was my youth leader for 12 years. She used to pick up, I don't know how she did it, she had a small Ford Aspire. Now, she got 3 kids, and they big, too, right? She'd pick up three or four other youth and stuff us all in the car. It was like a clown car. We'd all be climbing out, right? But she was so faithful. If the parents didn't come, I'm going to go get them. That's how much she believed in what she was called to do, right? And so, but that had such an impact on my formation. My daddy didn't sit me down teaching me how to do Bible study. They did. So that's where we're going to focus, okay? So we're going to make sure we give them the tools they need, give them the support they need, right? And rebuild it. Now, here's the thing. With that being said, that might require expansion. That might require restructure, right? And so we're going to take the people that we have, make sure that they have the strength to continue, and then we might add to it, right? But that means this. Just like y'all don't see everybody else here, y'all are the people that commit and show up. You already got other stuff going on. But that doesn't mean that in this next season, there might be some, hey, I need help at hand. Not taking over, but to help, right? Because the goal is to get the people here, to get them formed. And so the ones who have the strength and God gives the grace, we're going to use them, right? And we're not going to make them wait 8 months before they can serve. Them days is over, okay? So the youth are also going to have monthly activities. I've talked to Sister Mindy about that, right? I talked to Sister Mindy about setting the date for this next one. So she knew. If you hear a complaint that she didn't, she did. Yes, ma'am. No. I have you're in the series. You're in the series.
Just, presenting what they've learned for the month, or, like each group.
So I like that. The month we also talked about doing every 5th Sunday, letting them have it.
For sure.
The whole day.
But, wanting to know what they learned.
I agree. So I think we can. Yeah, I think we can do that on fourth Sundays. I think it'd be good. Make it a fourth Sunday. Let them share. I would like to see it. Or that, or a third Sunday when I'll be here. So I'm gonna tell you why I use dates like fourth. I like to put stuff on extra days with kids because then their parents know. It's leverage.
You don't think their parent will come on first and third?
When you have a low attendance on the second and fourth, and you create something with them on program, it usually draws other people to come.
Okay.
Now, we can do it with the first and third. I'm completely open. But that's why, to me, it's strategy in my brain. But y'all are here on the Sundays, I'm not. If you don't think that that would have an impact anyway, then I'm cool with either. Or we can alternate the Sundays. They don't have to be every fourth, right? And so, but a lot of times I'll be like, hey, I want you to speak on this particular day. And I do it on purpose because I know you got enough pull that people won't come hear you. However, I'm definitely open to doing it differently. So, and that's just me sharing. That's how my brain works. So if you wonder why I do those things, that's usually why I do it. Okay? But we can always alternate. But I do like that idea. So we'll incorporate that. Pastor Russ, if you can write that down. Sister Tyann, if you write that down. So that way we remember, because y'all know I will forget. Okay, so next is we're going to do a focus on outreach and evangelism. Okay, we've been saying this, right? We're going to try to tighten it down even more, our intentionality. So evangelism, believe it or not, evangelism is not a department. Evangelism is a culture, right? You have to want people to know Christ if you're going to share it. It has to become a need for you, right? When I tell you there is not a chance that I don't drop the fact every time I travel. Oh yeah, I pastor a church in Phoenix in Florida, so that's why I'm flying back and forth. Oh really, how is that? Boom, there's my door. I do it every time. We don't even be talking about church. I'm gonna drop it in there. What you doing on the weekend? Oh, I gotta drop, I gotta go to my church in Phoenix, blah, blah, blah. At work, what do you do for a living? Oh, I pastor, blah, blah, blah. Because for me, it's like a need. I just need to plant a seed. If it don't go nowhere, cool. But it's a part of who I am, right? And so we're gonna teach people into it to help them understand the importance, right? And then really push evangelism as a culture. So it can't just be a department, it has to be a church mindset. Because if you leave it to 2 or 3 people, it's only the 2 or 3 people that do it. Like when Sister Avis was here, right? She's gonna do what she's gonna do no matter who goes. That's cool to a point. If the entire church doesn't have that heart, then she's gonna get discouraged when people don't show up. Okay? And so, evangelism, it's a culture, it's how we invite people, it's how we see people, it's how we carry the responsibility beyond these walls, it's how we accept people when they join, it's how we treat them when they want to be a participant. All of it's connected. Okay? So that is going to be our focus. We're going to write out some directives on how we do that, right? Me and Pastor Russ, look. When it comes to, let me say this too, because I don't want anybody to be offended. So we have 3 staff pastors here. They all have their own functions, right? We do that because I'm not here all the time, and even when I was here, I just can't be aware of everything, right? Everybody don't tell me everything, but some of y'all tell Pastor Dar stuff. Some of y'all tell Pastor Russ's stuff. Some of y'all tell Pastor Fear's stuff, right? No, they do if they want him to share it. And so at some point, it's going to get to me through them, right? And it's not because I don't want to know, but there's a lot going on, so sometimes I miss it. But they have certain graces, right? Organization and structure, right? I'm a people person, right? I'm a pastor because I like relationships, right? But organization and structure is not my strong suit. Hey, hold on now. We've worked together on jurisdictional stuff. You just got here. Don't mess up. Don't you be like them. Be separate. Be set aside. But I know it's not, right? And true. It's not. It's just not, right? So God has blessed us with people who are. And sometimes we have a challenge with people feeling like they're favorites or this. No, they are good. They're just good. And so because of that, I go to her for a lot of structure. So a lot of the things we talk about process and structure, I don't even talk to Fears and Pastor Dara about it, not because they're not pastors, not because they won't be aware, but their grace is in other areas. I tell you, this person's she can know everything about everybody. She's a people person. She can get people to come and stuff like that. That's it, right? Also, feels like that because nobody like it. But we can explain it.
I love you, brother. I love you, brother David. I'm like you, and I love you, brother David. Don't let them do
Steve has got this since we met in the office.
I've been the kid
When he was going to be
Yeah, I've been the child.
15.
He say he been in the vineyard.
But he's anointed for it. He's graceful.
He's not
So anyway, so I want you guys to know that, right? It's not favorites, and there's other people who have other graces, right? If I'm talking about deliverance and prayer, I'm going to Mother Amanda, right? We're going to talk about that. So please, please, please don't misinterpret those. And even at that, I talk to them all the time about realigning things based upon what they do naturally, right? And so that we're going to see those things as we fine tune the areas of focus. We're going to see those things. We're going to see that realignment. And so how we're going to capture people. Is that it? Yeah. How we're going to capture people, how we're going to get them into our funnels, how we're going to get them connected. We're going to see that through visitor acquisition. And again, excuse my language because work's starting to blend in now. Visitor acquisition. How do we acquire visitors? How do we get them to come? Okay, we want to create a welcoming and inviting culture. And I'm gonna just give you random ideas. They have not been put on paper. They've not been talked about. We're gonna start creating parking spots designated for first-time visitors. Put a sign out there. You want them to feel special. When they come, here's 3 parking lots. 3 parking spots has been designated. We're gonna put a sign out there. That's their first spot. When they come in, we want to have like just a nice little welcome sign, right? Welcome to Redemption, right? After that, when we get to the point where we ask people, do you want to join the church or do you want to get saved? On one side, we're going to have a sign that says, this is my home. On the other side, we're going to have a sign that says, I want to accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. You want to make it exciting, right? We really want to do that. We're going to get back to having little gift bags and stuff like that just to make them feel special. Because that first impact, that first contact is what's going to stick. Now, after we do that, we really got to tie down the follow-up and retention, right? So here's what we're going to do. I've already talked to Mother Amanda. I might have another person who's going to do it, depending on where she's at. And then I have another person that's going to help me do follow-ups with the visitors. Phone calls, right? Not because Pastor Dar can't do it, but she has other stuff she's got to do too, right? And so stuff that's going to require that time and commitment, and some people just follow up naturally. Because Jesus knows, if I don't get a message from Mother Amanda, if not every day, every other day, I'm going to check and see if she's okay.
Please do. For all of y'all.
Because we all get a message, right? Why not have her do the follow-up? She's going to do it anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, again, paying attention to people and their graces. And say, you know what, here's the script, because I had to give her a script. I'm going to give her a script. Yeah. His mother met, yeah. Bow your head, close your eyes. No, not the first call. But we're going to do that, okay? So visit retention, follow-up. We're going to come up with the trip. We're going to create clear pathways for visitors, clear connection points, right? And so when they get to membership, we're going to get them in and get them plugged in, okay? And what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure all ministries are aligned, right? One vision. What did we say? We're going to transform the city. How do we do that? By creating stronger disciples, forming them, building them, having them impact their families, impact their communities, which then impact the cities, okay? So, and then we're going to talk about stewardship, areas of operation where you can help. But what we want is we don't want anybody to come and feel forgotten. We want you to come and feel forgotten, okay? And we want to create the culture that you don't feel forgotten just because you didn't hear from me. But if you hear from her, and if you hear from her, you recognize their attention is just as important as somebody else, okay? Okay? And so, that's where we get to this call to ownership. Oh, it's almost an hour. So here's what I want you to do. I think everybody can see that QR code up there. Can y'all see it? Can your phones scan that? See if your phones can scan it. Try to scan that. It's going to take you to a survey that I want you to complete. right now? I think it's about 17 questions, somewhere around there. Let me know if it's not active. If it's not activated, I can log in and activate it. But it should let you do it. Is it? Okay. Do me a favor, go through those right quick. These answers are anonymous, unless you want to put your name in it towards the bottom. But I want you to take a second. And so this survey is going to help us analyze some things personally and as a church, okay? Because this is really where the vision is going to become personal. All the things that I've shared, all the reflections you've had, this is where it becomes personal, right? We are literally calling the church as a body to move from being spectators to builders. And so there are some questions I want you to consider. And most of them are in this survey, right? But some of the main questions or the overlying questions are going to be, where will I grow? Where will I serve? Who will I bring? So the survey is not pressure, but it's connected to purpose. Go with the one that resonates the most. Here's he reading out loud.
I had a tough question on mine, which member irritates me the most.
Oh, okay. You better not put the pastor.
I couldn't put the it only comes with one name. The sad thing.
Okay. Everybody about done? Um, let's see. Okay. Everybody good? All right, we're moving forward. All right, so where are we at now? So what we'll do to make some adjustments operationally as we make these adjustments to focus is we're gonna have monthly Zoom staff meetings. We started doing that. We're gonna add them to the calendar for the year, so that way everybody knows, same links. So there should be no question about when they're happening, where they're gonna be at. And then quarterly, we will do in-person leadership meetings, right? So the people who are in training for leadership or in leadership, meaning they are over a department, not just serving in a department, or they would like to be over something and they want to be introduced to what that looks like. We're going to do quarterly in person. So it'll probably be on a Saturday like this, and we're going to take an hour, hour and a half, talk about, church direction, church culture, church structure. Do probably some segments on teaching about different things in leadership. And here's the interesting thing about leadership. So because we lead in church spaces, there's a lot of biblical principles, but then there's also a lot of best practices that you can learn outside of church when it comes to leadership and how to handle people that we really need to talk about, right? Because church people can be jerks in the name of Jesus. Right, Noah? Thank you. Thank you. Church people can be jerks in the name of Jesus. And I don't care how anointed you are, how gifted you are, being a jerk will run people away, right? And so we want to help people grow in their area of leadership by giving them those best practices. So giving honest feedback, best practices, so we can empower people to be who they're called to be. So we're going to do that quarterly. And then again, we're going to do the monthly activities. So we talked about doing Glow. We talked about doing the youth. Me and Pastor Russ are talking right now about couples ministry, what that's going to look like. Are we going to reframe it? Are we going to expand it? Does it need to be more about life in general and not just couples, right? Because there's things you need to know, even when you're headed towards hoping to be married and wanting to be married, or maybe deciding you don't want to be married. Because listen, sometimes once you get married, you're like, shoot, I wish I was single. Um, but talking about life, right, and the character that you need to have as life happens, whether you are single or married, life happens no matter what relationship status you're in. And so maybe we don't just focus on couples. We just have this be a life development course that's about all areas of life, right? Because here's the thing, whether you married or not, you need to know what it's going to be like to deal with somebody who's a sexual deviant. Like, they always want some. Like, what you going to do? You don't have to be married now to know, this is what you're going to have to deal with, this is what they are, right? If mother or man is addicted to sex, how do you handle that? You know what I'm saying? I had to pick somebody who was safe. Then she gonna call me, don't be, she's like, you know, it's like, Pastor, don't be airing out my business. I told you that in privacy. Anyway, so, but we are looking at reframing because, again, if it's about character development for the whole body, we don't want anybody to feel singled out because they don't fit in this particular group. When really, even what I talk about in this group, right? There's things that me and Mike can talk about being men that all men need to hear, whether you're married or not. And they may not come to a men's ministry thing, right? Because they may not be a deacon or they feel like they don't fit in, but they may come to a life something meeting and they can hear about it, right? And have open discussions. I would love to do a battle of the sexes panel in church. We talk about it. When it comes to being a man and a woman in church, why we don't want to come, why we think one man should come, all of that. Like, I love this. Why don't I come to sing with ministry? Don't no man want to come to that. Why not? So he can be on there like the chopping block and have more women tell him they don't want him? Nah. You know what I'm saying? Well, you ain't 6'2", making $100,000 a year. Why would you go? That's what everybody want. Ain't coming to that, right? Anyway, so you go to the baby section at Walmart. That's where you go find. I'm just joking. Anyway, so I want to do more things like that, right? So we're looking into that. We're going to expand. We're going to talk about that. So here's the thing. As we focus forward, okay, as we focus forward, we're going to have to make sure that our culture matches our calling, right? What is our calling? Remember, we said we want to transform the city, right? We want to have an impact. We want people to know that our church has the ability to shift things in the city, right? Shift lives. And again, we talked about that by faith, family, formation, finances. We're going to do all those things. And so we want to make sure, bless you, we want to make sure that our culture matches our calling. We want to make sure that we are committed to being a church that forms people and doesn't just fill the room. We want to make sure that we are a church that's rooted in faith and expressed through love, okay? We want to make sure that we are a church that strengthens families and serves the city. We want to make sure that we are a church that develops disciples who live sent lives. That's our goal, okay? We want to make sure. And so, the culture we're committing to is to being formed and not rushed, right? Formation takes time. Formation takes consistency, right? Which some people think is boring because it's redundant. So we're going to figure out a way how to reframe that to where being faithful doesn't seem boring. Being faithful don't seem like it's tiring. Being faithful don't feel like it's exhausting. I get up every morning and go to work. right? Do I want to do that? No, but I'm faithful to it. Why? Because I trust in the outcome. And so we have to get people to trust in the outcome, so where they show up, okay? So we want them to be connected, not isolated. Even in difficult seasons, you stay connected. Even in difficult seasons, you see the church as the place you come to stay sane, right? Not the place that drives you insane, right? We want to be stewarded, right? Good stewards and not strained. So I want you to feel comfortable giving and not worrying about what bill's not going to get paid after. And we want to give you the tools to do that, right? Because life gets hard. Life gets hard, okay? And then we want people to be sent and not just sitting, okay? Okay, and so the culture we're committing to, I think it's pretty clear. And so as we move forward, as our focus sharpens, as our responsibility expands beyond just the building, we have to make sure that we send a clear message that that's what we're doing, right? Anytime you look in the scripture and God has a significant move in the life of people, there's a monument made, right? So, for example, when Joshua takes the children of Israel over Jordan, the Lord tells him to leave these stones behind, right? And basically, God tells him, leave these stones, one for each tribe, there's 12. It says, leave these stones so that way when people cross over and see them, they ask what it meant. And they remember what God did at that place, right? When God makes Abraham a promise, the scripture says Abraham built an altar right there because of what God did, right? When Jacob's name was changed, he built an altar to commemorate his wrestling with the angel, right? Anytime we make significant changes, spiritually it's supported, we create a monument, okay? And the monument we are going to create is a name change. It's not as new as you think, but it sends the message that we have, right? A couple years ago, we started this concept called City Church. And if you remember, we were excited. Y'all were showing up to 2 services because you believed in that vision. And what did we get? We were getting people who would never come to this church, but they were showing up there in a bar. It was a very fresh mindset, right? Very fresh movement. And so we're changing the name. So, and here's why we're going to do it, okay? I've been in prayer about this for a while. A few people have heard the idea, but I had never confirmed if I was going to do it yet or not. Kind of toyed with it, right? Because, like me, I love redemption. I love what it meant. I love where it brought us to, right? Loved it so much, I got a tattoo of it on my arm. So I'm like, dang it, what am I doing with this darn tattoo? But it still means a lot, right? But here's the thing. Redemption is retrospective. What do I mean by that? Redemption is about how God saved us. Very difficult transition season, right? What looked like everything was lost, right? And God reminded us that there's nothing too hard for him to rebuild, right? But here's the thing about redemption. While it sends the signal that God can save, that God can restore, you know what it doesn't do? Redemption does not communicate mission. Redemption does not communicate movement, right? Redemption does not even communicate momentum. Redemption just communicates, I'm safe. I'm not lost. And that's great. But what happens beyond that, right? What happens beyond finding a safe space to grow through trauma? Well, you don't stay in trauma. At least you shouldn't, right? But sometimes people see a safe haven as a place to remain traumatic, as a place to still say, well, I have triggers, but this is a safe space for me to have them because they understand. But you got to move past that and mature. You got to move past you having a safe space and moving to a space of recognizing that other people need spaces too. Other people need safe havens, not just to be okay from hurt, but to be equipped to grow. Right? So redemption meant, hey, here's a place to recover from pain. But as we move forward, as we shift to City Church, we're a church that's about more than just us. We're about changing the city. We're about changing families. We're about forming lives. And that's why we're going to change it. Okay? Redemption doesn't give you the sense of, apostolic structure. It doesn't give you a sense of, hey, we have team leadership. It doesn't give you anything like that, right? Redemption gives you the idea of Jesus saved me. But there's so much more than that. Okay? And truth be told, just from a practical standpoint, there's a whole lot of redemption churches here. I get people trying to add to our Facebook group all the time, and I can look at them like, yeah, you're not here. Right? And so me and Pastor Aaron, we joke about that all the time, that I took his church name and made it black, right? And they just changed their name too not too long ago. So but when there's a shift, you commemorate it. And so that's what we're going to do. And so reasons to shift to City Church, and I'll give you that, then we'll let you go. Here's what City Church communicates, okay? It lets people know that our church is for the city. It's not just for ourselves, not just for the individual. And here's what's crazy. If you're going to call yourself a city church, you better be about the city or it's going to expose you. There is no room not to be what you say with a name like that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to be a church that we don't start impacting the city. It's got to be more than just worrying about ourselves and worrying about survival. Right? God is bigger than survival. God allows us to flourish and impact. So that's what we're going to do. And so it's kingdom-minded rather than personally centered. And if you've been listening to the Bible studies, you've heard me say a lot about moving away from the escapism mentality. And what do I mean by that? That focus on, I just want to make sure I get out of here in the rapture. And what happens is you live your entire life worried about what you got and you and your family, making sure y'all are safe. But it has nothing to do with building God's kingdom in the earth. And so that's why we're shifting to it. Matthew talks about a city being set on a hill, right? It can't easily be covered. Jeremiah 29 talks about seeking the peace of the city, praying for the city. If you look in Acts, Paul planted churches in cities. They were hubs, right? He would plant them and then send people out to pastor them, preach them, build them, okay? And so it forces us to focus on evangelism, focuses us to focus on our systems, not just the sentiment of a name. It focuses us to be builders and not bystanders. Y'all remember that whole sermon on that? And it focuses us to have movement over just moments. Sunday's great, especially when people get laid out. Oh, I love it. There's more to it than that, though. Okay? And so, we'll see those branding changes the next few weeks. I will probably mention it tomorrow. And if you take this next QR code, look at that for me right quick. That'll give me your chance, or excuse me, that'll give you a chance to let me know how you feel about that. Fears you can't put a long sentence in there because you ain't gonna talk to me crazy. But I would love the feedback, and this is pretty much the conclusion of where we are, but I would love the feedback on what's been shared, but primarily the name change. Because again, I'm gonna tell you what I was gonna do, right? Because strategically, systematically, if you want people to agree, you let them feel like they have a choice. And get their opinion, Sister Shannon. What do you like? Do you like this? Is this what you want? And I was gonna do that, right? But that's a little bit too businessy for me in this space. It needs to change. And I've been praying about it for a while. And I know there'll be some that disagree. We have a Bob Welcome song. I'm gonna work around that. I have a couple already in my pocket, so we'll see if you like it. But it's that's it. It's gotta change. I hope you guys hear my heart. I hope you can feel some confirmation in yours as well. And besides, I didn't want, we have enough So you'll see that. You'll see the new branding stuff, and we got a lot of stuff I got to do, but we're gonna get it. So, all right, done that. How y'all feel? Was it clear? Feel informed? You cold? Lord help. What are your thoughts? Just for everything today, what are your thoughts? Give me some feedback, please, so I don't feel like I wasted my time.
Feel like a lot of ground is covered.
Yeah.
A lot of things are up forward. And me, myself, I'm excited to see what God's gonna do. Here, the shift is already started. And God is preparing me for the war. We're getting ready to go into war, you guys. This is war.
You better talk.
This is war. We are being prepared to go into war. And I've already told God, I'm selling out. I want to